All right, let's talk about a word that, we're all hearing constantly these days, burnout. And it's so much more than just a buzzword, right? It's this really serious thing that's affecting millions of people. So today, we're going to go on a little journey from that feeling we all know of being completely overwhelmed to the actual science of what is happening inside your brain. Okay, let's dive in.
So does this sound familiar to you? That feeling of just being completely drained, maybe kind of cynical or detached from your job, and this nagging sense that you're just not getting anything done, no matter how hard you push. If you're nodding along right now, trust me, you are not alone. This right here, this is the heart of the burnout experience.
And look, this isn't just a problem in your typical office setting. A study from 2016 on U.S. neurologists, talk about a high-stress job, found that their biggest drivers of burnout were things like workload and all the administrative red tape. And that's a really key point. A lot of the time, burnout isn't some kind of personal failure. It's actually a result of the system that we're all working in.
So let's get one thing straight. It's super easy to mix up burnout with just being stressed. But what we're talking about here, it's so much more than just feeling tired after a really long week. There's a fundamental difference.
Think about it like this. Regular stress, it's kind of like stretching a rubber band. It's designed to do that, it can bounce back. But burnout, that's what happens when the pressure is constant, it's relentless, and it's completely unmanaged. It's a chronic state that just overwhelms your ability to bounce back, stretching that rubber band until it finally breaks. That snap, that is burnout.
So to really get our heads around this, we have to move past the analogies and get a bit more, clinical. And luckily, researchers have given us a really clear framework to define what burnout is, and just as importantly, what it isn't.
And there it is, the official definition. It's a recognized syndrome. And calling it a syndrome is so important because it validates the whole experience as a legitimate health issue, not just, having a bad attitude or not being a team player. It's real.
Okay, now this is super interesting because it breaks the whole thing down into three core parts. Think of them like the three legs of the burnout stool. First up, emotional exhaustion. That's the feeling of having absolutely nothing left to give. Then there's depersonalization, which is kind of a defense mechanism where you start to feel cynical and detached. And number three, a reduced sense of personal accomplishment, where you start to feel like you're just not effective anymore. Do any of those sound familiar?
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating. We talk about burnout as a feeling, right? But it's so much more than that. It isn't just in your head. It's literally happening to your brain. Let's actually look at the physical, measurable changes it creates.
So here's the key thing to understand. Not all stress is bad for you. Controllable stress, like a deadline you actually have a plan to meet, that can activate your brain. It can even be motivating. The real villain here is uncontrollable stress. This is the chronic, relentless kind that research shows actually impairs your brain function and leads directly to burnout. So think of your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your brain, okay? It's in charge of all the big stuff: decision-making, planning, regulating your emotions. Well, uncontrollable stress essentially takes that CEO offline. It literally weakens the connections in that part of your brain. And that explains so much, doesn't it? It explains why when you're burned out, it feels impossible to focus, to solve problems, or even just to manage your reactions to things.
And here's the proof, the hard data. This chart shows levels of something called BDNF. The easiest way to think about it is like brain fertilizer. It's a protein that helps keep your brain cells healthy and growing. And look at this. The group experiencing burnout had significantly lower levels than the healthy controls. Your brain is literally being starved of something it desperately needs to function.
And get this, it goes even deeper than that. This is wild. The chronic stress from burnout can actually change how your genes work. There's this process called DNA methylation. Think of it like a dimmer switch on your genes, and in this case, stress turns the dimmer switch down on the very gene that produces that crucial brain fertilizer, BDNF. So burnout isn't just messing with your mood, it's messing with you at a genetic level.
So after hearing all that heavy science, it's really easy to feel like the problem is just us. Like our brain is failing. But all the research points in the other direction. We need to zoom out. The biggest causes of burnout are almost always external, which means it is not just you.
These are the usual suspects that pop up in studies over and over again. Things like an impossible workload, clunky, inefficient systems, a total lack of control over your own work. See, this isn't about you not being resilient enough. It's about being put in a situation where burnout is pretty much the only logical outcome.
And if you're wondering just how huge this problem is, well, check out this number. A staggering 70% of American employees said the pandemic had a negative impact on their performance. For so many of us, it just completely erased the boundaries between work and home, basically pouring gasoline on a fire that was already burning.
Okay, so after all that doom and gloom and heavy science, is there any good news? Yes, absolutely. Because if science can show us how burnout messes up the wiring in our brain, it can also show us how to start rewiring it. We can find the antidote and start taking steps to reclaim our brains. Hey, remember how uncontrollable stress was the villain of our story? Well, this right here is the hero. The science is pretty clear that the single most powerful way to fight back against the neurological effects of burnout is to restore a sense of control and agency in your own life. So how on earth do we do that? Well, you start small, with what we can call micro steps. First, just set one boundary, like no work email after 7 p.m., something to protect your personal time. Second, prioritize what actually matters. Figure out your most critical tasks and give yourself permission to let the other stuff go. And third, actively invest in recharging. Put something on your calendar that actually refills your energy, whether it's a walk or a hobby. These tiny acts of control can make a huge difference to your brain.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. Burnout feels massive, right? It feels overwhelming. But the way back always starts with one small step. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What is one boundary, just one, that you can set for yourself today to start reclaiming your brain? Thanks for tuning in.